Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. If you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, September 18th. First up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Detroit Tigers. Michael Kopech and Drew Hutchison are your starters. I'm going to look to fade both of these starting pitchers in this one. I'm going to take the over. I know the Tigers' offense has not been great this season. I know we're playing at a more pitcher-friendly ballpark like Comerica Park, but Michael Kopech's had some control issues. His strikeout numbers haven't always been there. Less than 9 strikeouts per 9 is not what you want to see from a guy that was missing a ton of bats in recent seasons and out of the bullpen. And, he's given up at least 1 home run in each of his last 2 starts, which is also a concern. I do think the Tigers can score a few runs off of him, but I also really like the White Sox offense against Drew Hutchison, who's starting to regress himself. He's got an ERA now above 4 on the season, giving up a good amount of sharp contact. He gave up at least 1 home run in each of his last 4 outings, with 2 of those games with multiple home runs. The strikeout numbers aren't there. He's given up a good amount of earned runs and base hits, so I like the over in this first game of the day. The Tigers offense, like I said, one of the weaker ones in the American League this season, but I think this is the type of game where they can get things going. Their team OPS numbers aren't really too bad in the last month against righties. The isolated power is actually ranked inside the top 15, so they are improving, and I think it's enough to get an over here, so give me the over in the White Sox Tigers. In our next game, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. No official lineup for this one, so we're going to have to wait and see who the official starters are. But right now, I'm seeing Glenn Otto and Jeffrey Springs. Not my favorite game on the board, just because I don't think we're going to get a lot of value when this line does come out. But Jeffrey Springs is in great form. His last 3 starts, he hasn't given up a single earned run. No home runs allowed, a good amount of strikeouts as well. The walks here and there have been an issue for him, but overall, a really strong campaign for Springs. More than a strikeout per inning, so 124 Ks and 115.2. You love to see that, and the Rangers have been pretty good against lefties this season offensively, but more so at home. On the road here, I don't think they do too much against Springs. And Glenn Otto, although he's been pitching better recently than he was at the beginning of the season, I still don't trust him all the way, and I certainly don't love this Rangers bullpen. So even if this game is lower scoring and close early on, I think the Rays will grab the win in the end. So give me the Tampa Bay Rays, and I'm going to take them on the money line. In our next game, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Boston Red Sox. Nick Pivetta and Chris Bubic are your starters. Now, Chris Bubic, I do think he has promising signs in his game. I think eventually he'll be a good starter in this Royals rotation, but right now I just can't get there with him. Last start, 5 earned runs, 2 homers. He's given up at least 2 home runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. His strikeout numbers have been all over the place. The walk issues have always been there. And at Fenway Park against the Red Sox team, it's top 15 in team OPS against lefties in the last month. I just can't trust him in this game. And I also don't love this Royals bullpen. On the other side, I don't love Nick Pivetta in this matchup either. Another start where he gave up a couple home runs last time against the Yankees. His numbers at Fenway Park, an ERA above 4.75. So I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. We got one of the higher totals on the board for this one. Give me the over 10.5 runs in the Royals-Red Sox ballgame. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Garrett Cole and Jason Alexander are your starters. Now, right now, the New York Yankees are only minus 140 on the money line, but I have to say, I would be shocked to see that number stay where it is. I think this is going to be a minus 160 plus price for the Yankees by the time this game starts, and maybe even higher than that, as this is a clear pitching mismatch. I know the Yankees haven't been great against righties in the last month. I know that their bullpen has also struggled with some injuries thrown in there to not really help things, but still, this is a big pitching mismatch in terms of starting pitching. I look towards the Yankees in the first 5 innings. The Brewers have been good against righties, but Garrett Cole, overall this season, pitching well for the Yankees. Is he the ace that they paid him to be? I don't think so, but still got a 3.3 ERA, still has 228 strikeouts, which is number 1 in baseball. So I think he does a good enough job here. On the other side, Jason Alexander, I cannot trust him in this game. An ERA now above 5, and his last start, 5 earned runs, a homer, 9 base hits against the Cincinnati Reds of all teams. Before that, 3 earned and only 4 2/3 innings against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he's not in good form. The Yankees should be able to get to him. I wouldn't be surprised to see another Aaron Judge homer. So give me the New York Yankees. Right now, we're getting a really good price. We'll have to see where it goes by the end of the day. So give me the Yankees on the money line. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Washington Nationals. Sandy Alcantara and Anibal Sanchez are the starters. I'm going to take the under in this one. We got Anibal Sanchez on the mound, who's been actually in pretty good form lately. He's given up one earned run or fewer in each of his last 5 starts. He's faced some tough teams. Now, last outing, he didn't go too deep in that game. He only went 2 innings of work, but still, he's faced the Cardinals, the Padres, the Mariners, some really good offenses, some above 500 teams. And he's done pretty well against them, and the Nationals have won a lot of those games, winning 4 of the last 5 games that he started in. But you got Sandy on the other side, pitching really well for the Marlins this season. This 2.43 ERA, coming off a good start against the Phillies, where he did lose the game because the Marlins bats didn't back him up. One of the reasons why I like the under here. But he went 7 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs against a good Phillies lineup that he had to face back-to-back starts, which is never easy for a starting pitcher. He has faced a ton of tough lineups. The last 5 games for Sandy Alcantara: Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Padres, Phillies. So the last 7 games you can extend it to. All teams that are going to make the playoffs more than likely, all teams that have solid lineups. So he finally gets to face a feasible game here in the Nationals. I think this is going to be a low-scoring one. Give me the under in the Nationals-Marlins. In our next game, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Bailey Falter and Spencer Strider on the mound for this one, but there's no official lineup, so we could see a pitching change. If these are the starters, I am going to take the Braves on the run line. I have been impressed with Bailey Falter in his last 5 starts or so, but the last 2 outings in particular against the Marlins, where he only gave up 3 earned runs in 11 1/3 combined, so it's pretty good outings. The Phillies won both of those games. He only had 7 strikeouts. He gave up a home run in one of those games. We know the Marlins are not a very good lineup against lefties. They're really not a good lineup against anybody right now. But against lefties this entire season, the Marlins have really struggled. So to give up a home run, to only strike out 7 through 11 1/3, a little bit concerning. Those were starts where he could have really dominated. And now you're facing a Braves lineup that's top 10 in team OPS, top 10 in isolated power in the last month against left-handed pitching. Doesn't really set up to be the best start, especially when you're going toe-to-toe with Spencer Strider. So I think this is going to be a Braves victory by quite a few runs. I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs with the home team in Atlanta. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Dean Kremer and Alek Manoah are your starters. Now, Alek Manoah has been in great form. After the All-Star break, he struggled with a few outings, including one of the games against the Orioles. But in his last 5 starts, he's given up 1 earned run or fewer in all of those games, striking out a good amount of batters, not really giving up too many walks or base hits, and he's gone at least 6 innings in all 5 of those games. 6 innings against the Yankees, 7 against the Angels, 7 1/3 against the Pirates, 8 innings of 1 earned run ball against these Baltimore Orioles, and then his last start 6-2 against the Rays. The Blue Jays have won each of the last 3 games. He started in with all 3 being run line covers. I think they get another one here. Dean Kremer, not my favorite starting pitcher to back, even though he's got a good ERA overall this season. I think there's some regression concerns. We already start to see it last start against the Washington Nationals. It was a good opportunity for him to have a good start. He only went 5 innings. He gave up 8 base hits and 3 earned runs with only 1 strikeout. That concerns me. I'm going to take the Blue Jays on the run line, laying the 1.5 runs. In our next game, we see the Cleveland Guardians hosting the Minnesota Twins. Joe Ryan and Cody Morris are your starters. Now, Cody Morris is not really getting a lot of outings this season, only about 9 2/3 innings pitched on the year. He's got 9 strikeouts, but also 8 walks allowed and 2 home runs allowed, so that is pretty concerning. Even though he's got that 2.79 ERA, you don't want to have an 8 to 9 walk-to-strikeout ratio, even through a small sample size. So I do think the Twins will be able to get to him. A pretty good lineup against right-handed pitching. On the other side, Joe Ryan is not a starter that I'm looking to back very often in his road games. But I do think that this is actually a start to have some success in. The Cleveland Guardians, he's faced 12 innings this year. He's at a 3 ERA with 12 strikeouts. And, Joe Ryan's had the biggest issue in his road games have been the home runs allowed, 11 home runs in 50 innings. The Guardians aren't really the strongest of lineups in terms of power, in terms of home runs. They're more of a contact-based team. They get on base, they steal bases, they're very pesky. I don't think that that's the type of lineup that Joe Ryan's going to struggle with, even on the road here at Progressive Field. So I like the Minnesota Twins, especially when you're getting plus money. I think they have the starting pitching advantage. And even though the Guardians certainly have the better bullpen, I think the Twins score enough early on to conserve the lead in this one. So give me the plus money with the Twins on the money line. In our next game, we see the New York Mets taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Johan Oviedo and Jacob deGrom are your starters. Now, there's no official lineup for this game, so either of these starters could be moved. But if deGrom is on the mound and Johan Oviedo is on the other side, this is going to be a New York Mets minus 400 plus money line. And there's not going to be a lot of value in this game. With DeGrom pitching at home, and he's pitching against a weaker offense, and the Pirates are going with a bullpen game, you can expect the Mets to be huge favorites. So this is a game I'll be probably staying away from altogether, but if I had to choose a side, I have to take the New York Mets here. This is a spot where, DeGrom's coming off a start against the Cubs where he did give up 3 earned runs in 6 innings, but it's still a quality start. He still had 10 strikeouts. The Mets offense didn't back him up in that game. Where have we seen that before with DeGrom's games? But overall, he faced the Pirates back on September the 7th against Johan Oviedo, and the Mets won that game 10-0 on the road. 7 innings, 8 strikeouts for DeGrom, no earned runs in that game, only 1 walk allowed. I could see a similar stat line for him here. Give me the New York Mets laying the 1.5 runs. I think about laying 2.5 runs as well. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Houston Astros. Ken Waldichuk and Framber Valdez are your starters. Framber Valdez has been one of the more underrated starting pitchers this season, as he has a very, very long quality start streak. I've actually lost count now. It's got to be 20-plus games. He's coming off another complete game, shutout, 9 innings, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts against the Tigers. He's facing a team in Oakland that has not really done well against him this season, and I don't think it's going to be a good spot for Oakland in this game either. This year against the A's, in 17 innings pitched for Framber, he's got a 1.59 ERA, no home runs allowed with a 111 opponent's batting average. And if Waldichuk is the starter for the Oakland A's, which it looks like he will be, he's a lefty. The Astros love it, left-handed pitching, especially at Minute Maid Park. And Waldichuk's starting to regress right now. He's got an ERA above 5 now. I don't like his chances or the Oakland A's bullpen. So give me the Houston Astros laying the 1.5 runs at home. In our next game, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Luis Cessa and Jordan Montgomery are your starters. The Cincinnati Reds have been able to compete in this series. We saw Game 1, the outright victory. We saw Game 2, the run line cover. We'll have to see what the official scores for the doubleheader on Saturday are, but I think the Reds can compete in this game. Luis Cessa has been miserable at Great American Ballpark, but has actually been pretty solid in his road games this year. An ERA below 4 in his road starts and road appearances out of the bullpen, a 3.58 ERA, 28 strikeouts in 32 innings. Isn't the greatest, but it's not too shabby either. Only 5 home runs allowed with a 237 opponent's batting average. Against the Cardinals this year, Luis Cessa has faced them a few times, and 3 innings, no earned runs in those 3 appearances out of the bullpen. I think he keeps the Reds in this game, and Jordan Montgomery didn't have his best start last time out, that's for sure. 4 earned runs and 6 total runs against the Brewers lineup that doesn't really hit lefties very well, while the Cincinnati Reds on the other side, their numbers have been improving quite well against lefties in the last month or so. Isolated power is ranked 8th in the league. The team OPS is ranked 10th, so I think they can get to Montgomery for a few runs. This should be a lower scoring game overall. I think there's some value on the underdog on the run line, so give me the 1.5 runs with the Cincinnati Reds. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Chicago Cubs. Ryan Feltner and Javier Assad, 2 young pitchers on the mound. This is a really tough game for me. I'm going to lean towards the Cubs on the money line, but certainly not my favorite game on the board. Ryan Feltner's got good strikeout stuff here and there, but he's also got some control issues. He's given up 8 earned runs in his last 2 starts combined against the Diamondbacks and Brewers. Now, both of those games were at Coors Field, but Ryan Feltner's numbers on the road still aren't even that great. 5.97 ERA, so a little bit lower than his home ERA. An 0-4 record in his road starts with 36 strikeouts in 37 innings. Not the greatest. 8 home runs allowed, so I really just can't trust him here. I think the Cubs are the better team, especially with the Rockies offense having to play on the road. We know they don't do too much against right-handed pitchers away from Coors Field. And Javier Assad this season, he's kind of been up and down. Against the Reds back on September 7th, it wasn't a good start, and that was at Wrigley Field, so a little bit concerning, but his most recent game against the Mets at Citi Field, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned in a Cubs victory. I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs here at a pretty good price on the money line. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Los Angeles Angels. 2 lefties on the mound for this one, Marco Gonzalez and Reed Detmers. We saw the Angels with the outright win against the Robbie Ray-led Mariners in Game 1 of this series, and now they're facing another lefty here, Marco Gonzalez. I like the Angels' chances to pull off another victory as the home dog. Give me the plus money on the money line with the Angels. They're top 15 in team OPS and number 2 in isolated power against lefties in the last month. Mike Trout is on a red-hot streak, especially with his home runs left and right. He's been one of the hotter hitters in baseball. Marco Gonzalez, a guy that's susceptible to the home run ball in his career, and that's definitely been the case in his last 2 starts, giving up 3 home runs combined, 24 now on the year. I don't like Gonzalez's chances. Give me the Los Angeles Angels. Reed Detmer's been good enough. I'm going to take the Angels on the money line. Next up, Yu Darvish and the San Diego Padres take on Ryan Nelson and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see Ryan Nelson here making his second start against these Padres. He faced them back on September 5th, and he had a shutout through 7 innings of work with 7 strikeouts. However, I don't love a young pitcher in his third game at the major leagues facing the same team that he just faced about 10 days ago. Usually the advantage goes to the lineup, familiarity there, and I do think that the Padres will do a better job against Nelson in this game, score a few runs for Yu Darvish, who's been pitching really well for San Diego. His last start, 8 innings, 7 strikeouts against the Mariners in a 2-0 Padres victory. I think Darvish is the more trustworthy starter, and I think even if this is a close game and a low-scoring game early on, I think the Padres have the much better bullpen. So I'm going to take San Diego here on the money line. In our final game of the night, we see your Sunday Night Baseball contest on ESPN. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. So the Giants are playing in their second straight Sunday Night Baseball game. So, Andrew Heaney and Alex Cobb are the starters, and Alex Cobb, I do like him in this spot at Oracle Park, where he's had the better numbers this year, a 2.34 home ERA, coming off a home start against the Braves, where he went 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, no earned, no walks. He's in really good form overall. And his last start against the Dodgers, he gave up 3 earned and a 4 in the third innings, but that was in Dodger Stadium. Like I said, much better home numbers for Cobb this year, and I do think he'll have a good outing yet again in this spot. On the other side, Andrew Heaney, at times he struggled with the long ball. Really, all season long he struggled with the long ball, 12 home runs in 57 innings, but the strikeout numbers have been there, and the Giants' numbers against lefties haven't been that great in the last month, believe it or not. This is a team that's been known to hit lefties very well, but they're 21st in isolated power, and they are 27th in team OPS against lefties in the last month, with the second highest strikeout rate at 28.5%. So I think Heaney has a good outing here, especially because he can miss those bats, and the Giants have been struggling with strikeouts at the plate. So give me the under in this Dodgers-Giants ball game to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday, September 18th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.